We can see those chopsticks now in view.
The fact that we are witnessing this is insane. Imagine if every time you had to refill the gas in your car, you just had to buy an entirely new car. That's what we've historically had to do with rocket technology as we've gone to space. But with the Starship Catch, we can just refuel the rocket and launch it again, which is fundamental to going to outer space and having an interplanetary civilization. Elon Musk is pretty much the Henry Ford of space. Henry Ford invented the first vehicle that was reusable for land travel. Elon Musk did it for space travel, and that's pretty much as simple as it gets. This was a pivoting moment where the largest flying object known to mankind sent it up to space and then caught it with two chopstick arms and landed it on the ground. That is pretty insane. But this is only the beginning of something much, much greater. There's a little timeline that Elon has planned out here. And by next year, what he wants to do is have bilateral rocket or starships taking off and landing or being caught with chopstick arms, two of them at the same time. And he also wants them to do a fuel transaction in orbit. So they're going to be in orbit around Earth, and fuel is going to go from one to the other, which is crazy. And then next, by 2026, he wants to launch a few starships to Mars to put some resources there for whenever we're ready to launch people up there, which will be within 2 years of putting those things up there. And if that's successful, by 2028, we start building the Mars colony. And by 2040, we want to have a self-sustaining colony on Mars. Like, that's insane. That's the exact moment that we become an interplanetary species, where we have an interplanetary space civilization for the first time ever. And it could be here quite soon, actually. Like, is that not crazy to you? Like, that's pretty crazy to me, that in our lifetimes, as long as civilization persists and we get to that time period, we are likely to have an interplanetary species and have an interplanetary civilization. We're becoming like almost Star Trek type deal, which is amazing. And the beginnings of a lunar base will be starting pretty soon in the late 2020s or early 2030s, which is pretty crazy and it's pretty awesome. And if you think about it, the moon is a perfect launch pad. It's not a gravitational well like the Earth is. And the atmosphere, obviously, doesn't exist. So on coming downwards, you don't have to beat the shit out of your rocket going downwards through the atmosphere. You can just launch and take off and land quite easily and a lot more cheaply and less dangerously than you would here on Earth. So think about it. If God didn't want us to become an interplanetary species, he wouldn't have put a perfect launch pad right next to Earth. And with the acceleration of AI and robotics, especially as AI reaches the order of super intelligence, it's going to become much easier to go throughout the cosmos and to actually create civilizations on other planets, because we'll have AI and robotics that can go there and pre-build certain types of establishments for us before we actually get there. And they'll be able to terraform certain parts of the planet so we can inhabit those parts and continue to expand outwards onto the planet. So I think a colony on Mars will actually be growing pretty exponentially as long as we keep populating the planets. And eventually we'll be going to Proxima Centauri, and we'll probably start a colony on Proxima Centauri B, which I don't know if that'll be in our lifetimes unless we do have some biotech breakthroughs that increases the lifespan. I think then we could probably see that in our lifetimes. And maybe we do achieve some form of like longevity, escape velocity, and then we'll definitely see that in our lifetimes. As long as you are conscious and aware of your health and not being stupid, you probably could. In the next like 50 to 60, maybe 70 years, I can only imagine what it'll be like. Like, we already plan on having a self-sustaining colony on Mars within 20 years. What is the plan after that? Like, how big will these goals get? How far will we be able to see within our galaxy? Currently, we can only see about 4,000 or 5,000 planets out of the possible 400 million planets that are in the Milky Way. So maybe if we have a telescope that can allow us to see, like, let's say 50 million planets, maybe we could find some form of intelligent life out there, or like an alien civilization or something like that. It's definitely possible. And if we did find an alien civilization that is pretty advanced, you best believe we're going to be stepping on the gas after that one. So arguably, that could be the best possible thing to happen to us, is we find a civilization more advanced than our own. And then we will accelerate the shit out of technology and become far more prosperous and have a much better species than we had before. And I think that's actually quite possible. I think it's unreasonable to assume that there's zero life besides ours in the Milky Way, whenever we can only see like 4,000 or 5,000 planets. There probably is at least sprouting life somewhere within our galaxy. Maybe they're far beyond us technologically, or maybe they're just catching up to us technologically, or maybe they're just like bacteria still. And this is similar to something that's already happened to humans in the past. Whenever we had different groups of prehistoric humans like Homo erectus, the Neanderthal, and then Homo sapiens emerged in Africa. All of these different groups eventually would meet each other, and they would basically be aliens to each other, but instead of in a interplanetary scale, it was within just the globe, within a continental scale. What I'm saying is it's probably likely that there is something similar to that type of relationship on a cosmic scale. If you think about the inception of the universe, and there's sparks of life scattered about the universe, and then as they're growing, eventually they meet each other. That's exactly what happened on Earth. There were sparks of life on different parts of the planet, and as they grew, eventually they met each other, and now we have all of these interesting cultures and different diverse civilizations that came out of like these little sparks growing and growing and growing, and then eventually merging with each other and meeting each other. The same thing will likely happen on a cosmic scale. So this video has been very fun, thought-provoking, and inspiring, but it's not guaranteed yet for one specific reason. There is a group of people who think competition is a bad thing. There's a group of people that don't like the idea of part of the human species going to another planet and possibly forming a different political or economic system that they can't control. There is a group of globalists, elites, that hate the idea of not being Big Brother to all of these human species. The idea of competition continuing to exist amongst humans is unfathomable to them, and they think it's the root of all evil. But in reality, it's the root of all growth and prosperity for our species, and this has been historically true. This group of people think it's terrible for our species to go inhabit other planets and potentially become something different, which we could if we have different forces of gravity and different environmental constraints. We could evolve over time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But to this group of people, the idea of them losing control and that other civilization becoming a threat and becoming competitive with the home planet is too unfathomable that they would rather just kill all of humanity combined. Because over a long enough time horizon, if we don't go on to different planets, we know all of humanity will go extinct. It is guaranteed. This group of people calls themselves effective altruists. They have this glamorous idea of a post-scarcity society where everybody has equitable access to all resources and we're all the same. But what they don't tell you is they're big brother to all of humanity. They will be big brother to the entire species. The thought of them not having control and guiding civilization where they want it to go themselves is something they cannot have. They would much rather give humanity access to all of these different resources and make competition go extinct and have a utopia which doesn't exist until all of us go extinct, just so they can have control until all of humanity goes extinct. This is an idea that many people are buying into. This is an idea that I have conversations about on my YouTube channel. Like literally in the comments, there's people saying things like this, which is completely mind-boggling to me that people actually buy into something like this. It's like buying into suicide, basically. Effective altruists are a cult that plans on infecting the globe. And it's not like a good cult, like Brian Johnson he has a cult that makes people live forever. That could be a good cult, depending on what your ethical views on living forever are. But to have a cult where over a long enough time horizon, all of the species goes extinct is a bad thing. I think that's quite obvious. Because we already know that if we don't get to Mars eventually, the sun will expand and Earth will become inhabitable and all of the living life on Earth will go extinct. And if we do inhabit Mars and we don't go on from there, the sun over a long enough time horizon, or our star, the sky, will likely become unstable and cease to exist one day. And if we go to other solar systems and we don't expand from there, there could be a supernova that eliminates all of the solar systems within the radius that the explosion is within. And if we don't inhabit the entire galaxy, we won't be able to survive that explosion. And if we don't inhabit other galaxies, the supermassive black hole in the middle of our galaxy could become unstable one day. Or we could have the Andromeda galaxy and the Milky Way collide with each other, and all of life on both of those galaxies will cease to exist. Or maybe we go inhabit dozens of galaxies. And then maybe one day we could have a post-scarcity society. Effective altruists always sell this idea of a solved world, a post-scarce society. But the definition of scarcity is access to resources to prevent death, or access to resources to survive. And the only way to have access to enough resources to actually survive disasters at a cosmic scale are to inhabit several galaxies. Therefore, we are not a post-scarce society until we are inhabiting hundreds of billions, if not trillions of planets. Therefore, the probability of us ever becoming a post-scarce society is basically zero, close to it. But to just give up now and say, well, we might as well just die on Earth is something that is very selfish, especially for these globalist elites to make that decision for all of humanity. That's a bit crazy if you ask me. So again, I think the best thing that could possibly happen to our species is we create a telescope powerful enough and we see out maybe into 50 million or 50 billion planets away, and we see an advanced alien civilization being built, and it's far superior to ours. That would scare us enough to actually kick into gear and say, okay, let's advance technology, let's become interplanetary species. This idea of a solved world post-scarcity society, yeah, that was nonsense. We were lying to you. We'll admit it now. This mind virus cannot persist. It's literally, that's what it is. Just like a virus, again, kills the host of the organism, the mind virus kills the host of the species. That being said, I want to wrap the video up here. I just want to put these words and thoughts out there because there's a lot of people buying into this cultish idea that they aren't even aware of what the second and third order consequences of it are. So, that being said, I will see you guys in the next video.